Hello and welcome back. My name is Dina Watson, as you very well know, and I'm the co founder of Moving the Military. We are a nationwide platform for VA and military home buyer and seller education, as well as educating the agents who work with many of you around the country. Um, I want to talk today in session 4 about how buying smart with a PCS strategy in mind and a long term wealth play is probably the smartest thing that you can do when you're in the buying stages while in the military. So, we're going to start off by talking about something that I don't think people say very often because most agents are afraid of hurting your feelings or afraid of losing a sale. So, since I'm not here to sell you anything, I'm going to say it. Your very first home is not the end of your story. It's not your forever home. Most of you are only going to stay in your first home for 3 to 5 years. Then you're going to move. Moves with the military are inevitable. It's part of the military lifestyle, and PCSing is something that will happen to all of us. Now, if your housing strategy does not account for your PCSing active duty military reality, this can become a problem. Now, if you're watching this and you're a first time VA home buyer and you're out of the military, well, that's a different story. But many of you will be actively serving our country while watching these videos, so I want to make sure to say it. Choosing your first home based on the ideals that you have for your forever home should not be an expectation that you hold. Now, I'm all for it if financially you can afford to do it, but remember that flexibility matters. The ability to adapt when your orders arrive and know that you could sell or you could rent if you chose to is really important. Now, we're going to talk about how strategy beats emotion in today's session, and I want to make sure that I help you understand that buying through strategic means instead of emotional ones will keep you from being trapped later. I want you to think about your life and your purchasing ideals as you go through the military as if you are on loan. So I want you to have the on loan mindset. You're borrowing a location, not settling forever. If you're buying and PCSing as part of the plan, your long term strategy, I want you to know that that is something that I'm very familiar with, and it works really well for many of us. As you have probably heard in one of the former sessions, my husband and I are still active duty, and we just made our last PCS a couple years ago. And we have been PCSing for the last 13 years we've been married and buying homes the entire time. Today's home, if you choose to, can become tomorrow's asset. And that doesn't mean that emotional buying is wrong. It just means that strategy matters more while you're still moving. Now, buying with the end in mind and planning for movement creates a long-term better set of decisions for yourself. May mean also that you sacrifice something that you really want now for something that will be better later. We'll talk about that at any point you want to. You can call, text, email, whatever. Let's talk about why the PCS mentality and the PCS in general changes everything for a military homebuyer. Being flexible is an advantage. As you very well know, you might have a really short window to move, and this is something you can't avoid. So shorter timelines in your PCS force you to have clarity in your decision making. Now, being more flexible also allows for less emotional attachment when you move. If you bought thinking this would be your forever home and you absolutely love it and you've put all this money into it and then the military moves you and you didn't plan for it, it's hard. It's hard to leave that house. It's hard to turn it into a rental if you need to. And it's hard to wrap your head around doing it all over again. So buying it with someone and working with someone when you're buying that helps you understand the lack of attachment is also very important as you're in your moving stages. Emotional buying also creates problems, not only when your orders arrive, but in the purchasing process. I've had many people who were very, very attached to homes, that the home inspections were awful. The house had so many issues underneath the surface, and they already had seen themselves with Christmases and holidays and birthdays and all of that. Keep the mentality while you're in the military and you're moving that at any moment you could PCS and you have a choice to make. This home could become an asset and could become a rental, or you would have to be able to sell it. No matter what, keeping properties and not having to do one of those two things is not really part of the lifestyle you're currently living in. And even if you plan to stay, buy with resale in mind. This is really important, you guys. There are so many people I've worked with over the years who bought in an area that they loved but nobody else really lived in. They bought a type of home that was nostalgic for them, but it wasn't what people are buying today. So there are a few things that I'm going to talk to you about today that really make a difference. Location matters, even if it doesn't matter to you. School districts matter, commutes matter, neighborhood appeal matters. There are many communities in our country where walkability might matter, or commutability, drivability, any of those things, right? I want you to remember one thing. Because it doesn't matter to you, doesn't mean it doesn't matter to the masses. If you're buying a home today with the intent to resell it or rent it tomorrow, right? Think about things that would matter to other people. And then do your best to negotiate with yourself on how to let go of some of the strongholds that you have on other things. Now, the other thing that really matters is layout, functionality, neutrality. Don't buy something that is like lime green. There's a house not too far from us where the roof is orange and white checkered because the person loves UT Knoxville football. That's not a home I would buy if I were living in the military lifestyle. But remember, keep things neutral, especially after you buy it. Don't paint every room bright red or purple or pink or whatever. Neutrality matters. Functional homes resell and re-rent more easily. Now, the last thing that matters on here is marketability. Over customizing limits your future buyers or future tenants. If you move into a home that you know you're going to live in for 3 to 5 years and you turn it into your mecca, your oasis, and you've got super eclectic taste, you're going to have to undo all of that in order to have a larger pool of buyers and tenants when you go to move. So just remember not to do that. Now, rentability could be the backup plan. It could also be the plan. For us, it was always the first plan. We knew we were going to buy a home, move out of it, rent it, buy another home, move out of it, rent it. That's how we've ended up with the properties that we have. But the other thing to consider, even if you don't want to rent, when you're buying while in the military, think to yourself, if you couldn't sell it, could you rent it out? Not every property makes a good rental, and if you're buying while still serving our country, you should understand 3 things. Number 1, demand. Local rental demand determines whether your property will attract quality tenants. What type of home is it? What part of town is it in? All these things matter. The payment versus the rent matters because you have to at least be able to get the payment that you have on the home in rent roll every single month, or you're paying after you've already moved for a home you don't live in. So the reality may not be that you're cash flowing all of this money every month on these rentals, but the mentality my husband and I have always been in is that as long as the rent can cover the mortgage, the property management fees, and couple bucks here and there for other things, especially HOA dues and all of that, we're okay with it because we understand that as long as our rental income covers our mortgages and expenses, the equity we earn on the back end is where we're going to win long term. Now, management also matters. If you are moving, there are challenges with managing your own home. So when you go to buy, make sure that you understand who are the top property managers in the area so that if you end up having to sell, you could speak with someone else first and make sure that your home can be taken care of. Now, remember, there's no one right answer for every military family or every military service member. There's also not all one right answer for every city. What you were dealing with 2 years ago, and maybe you had friends that PCS 2 years ago in the market 2 years ago, and you're facing PCS orders today, the market's not the same. Your financial position is not the same as your friend, and the tolerance that you have for stress is also not the same as your friend. So just remember, every situation is vastly different. After you purchase, whether you choose to sell or rent, every scenario is different. Sometimes selling is the smartest move. Sometimes renting is the smartest move. There's someone I sold a home to 2.5 years ago that just reached out to me that they're actually getting restationed back in Alabama. And I told her, you should not sell this house right now. The market in not only your neighborhood, but in our city is not the ideal market. If you can stomach being a landlord for a couple of years, I think you could sell it for much more than you could today. Now, do I make any money off of that? No. Right? As a real estate agent, we only make money when we sell homes. However, working with someone who has your best interest in mind is far more important than anything else. And I hope that I've stressed that to you, especially in the last session. Sometimes your financial position requires you to hold it because there's a long-term upside. I want you to remember this. You never lose until you sell. So even if you purchased a home at the top of the market and you're able to hold it and rent it for years and years and years, even if the market dips and the home values go down, you don't actually lose any money until you sell and cash out, similar with stocks and other investments. Now, the last thing on here is stress tolerance. The right decision depends on you, not the headlines, not what I have to say, not what any other agent has to say. If the idea of having a rental stresses you out to the point where you're like breaking out in hives, you probably should just sell the house whenever you are purchasing it, think about selling it. If you have a little bit higher risk tolerance, like I do, having 6 or 7 homes, all with mortgages and tenants, it does not bother me at all. And that's just a me thing. I don't think that any one answer is right for everyone. That's the reason that we stress so much with you guys that doing a strategy session with us or with your preferred agent is really important, because they're going to be able to take your scenario and help you make the right decisions. Now let's lean into, on the back half of this session today, the idea of VA entitlement in future purchases. Now, some of this is going to be for a lender to share with you, so I'll share the highlights. But just remember that today's choices impact your options for tomorrow. Your entitlement can be restored by either selling the home or refinancing it. But remember that your first VA purchase affects your ability to buy again. Let's say that your total entitlement is $700,000 and you just go full bore and buy a $500,000 house now. When you move, you only have about $200,000 in this example to use without a down payment. So anything you spend over that, there would be a down payment required. So remember that you can layer on, you can have more than one home on a VA loan at one time. That's another myth that most people don't know. You can either buy one home and then sell it and buy another, or you can buy one home on your VA loan, rent it out, and then buy another. There are obviously rules for how long you have to live in the home and things like that, but you can layer these things on. So planning, let's say you're going to buy 2 or 3 more times over the next 10 years, we want to help you understand how the layering of prices can affect the future. This is why education comes before action. This is why you're here today, is you're watching this to get more educated on what your options are. And I know I'm talking about a lot of things. That is the intention. I want to share a lot of options with you guys and share a lot of information so that you know what you're getting into. But if you're choosing to buy and then hold these things, and you're going to buy and rebuy and buy and buy and buy and hold them all as rentals, the best thing that you can do is get with someone who can lay that path out for you. We have an option for that, totally free, doesn't cost you anything to have a call with us, where we share with you, okay, you're going to move 4 more times on average in your 15 years or whatever. Let's talk about where you could move and buy and move and hold and things like that. We have a whole strategy session around this because it's important. It's important to get it right at the beginning. It's important to understand at the beginning what you think you may do going forward. And we obviously know that things change. If something changes, we can make an edit, right? So let's talk about avoiding the housing trap as we wrap this up. When a house becomes a liability, you will hear real estate agents say that it's always a good time to buy a home. That is not true. It is not always a good time to buy a home. It's not. As much as I hate to say it, it's not. There are times when you would have to overbuy, meaning that you would have to pay more than the home is worth in order to get a home. 2021 and 2020 and some of 2022 were like that, where you were having to pay over asking price to even have a shot. That's when we bought our home that I'm sitting in right now. And if I didn't already know it, I would be really upset right now. If I needed to move right now and we were PCSing, we wouldn't be able to sell this house because we paid more than the home was worth when we bought it. So overbuying makes housing kind of a trap and a liability. Poor location can make things a liability. So smart buyers maintain options in locations that they're willing to move or consider. And not having an exit plan can create a liability for you. If shit hit the fan, could we get out of this place? How could we get out of this place? And knowing all of that before you buy it is really, really important, because home buying, in my opinion, is all about future freedom. It's all about financial freedom and freedom to live in your home the way you want to. And I want to make sure that you understand that. Let's talk about stability and not stress for a minute. The best military buyers don't feel stretched. If you are considering buying a home and you are stressing because you don't know how you're going to make ends meet, but your agent's telling you we'll figure it out, I'd tell you to pump the brakes. Just also remember that strategy compounds over time. The more confidence you have going into these things and the more strategic you are from day one, the longer you'll be able to go without stress. Long-term leverage, building wealth through informed decisions is really important. That's one of our plays for our military career, was that we knew we would move about 4 or 5 times. And if we purchased a home at every one of those places and we had 5, we knew if we had 5 that by the time my husband retired, we would be set up in 10 years from then to have a certain amount of money coming in every single month because our mortgages would be paid off and those properties would just be rented and all that money would be straight to the bottom line. That's why I said this is about freedom more than it is about buying the ideal home today. Just remember, education always first, decisions are always second. Now, after these 4 sessions that you understand the full picture, don't rush. Don't rush the next step. Choose your guidance and your strategist and your agents wisely. And of course, like I've shared with you before, if you need help and you have the ability to reach out to me, which you all do, I am more than happy to chat with you. I want you to remember one thing. You're never going to inconvenience me by asking me questions. That's why we have this platform. That's why Moving the Military exists. And also remember that if it doesn't feel right to you, it might not be. Ask for a second opinion before you sign with an agent or sign on with a lender. And I also want you to know this because I haven't covered this in the sessions. Once you sign a representation agreement with an agent, you cannot leave and go ask other people for advice. So it's really, really, really important that before you sign that agency agreement, you are certain that that person is who you want representing you. Because once you sign those things, they're legally binding contracts, meaning that that agent has to be willing to allow you out of the contract based on the terms for which the violation has maybe occurred. So if you lock yourself into working with someone that you have not interviewed or asked lots of questions to, and then you come and ask us for help, legally we can't offer it to you. So, as a reminder, do your research, slow the process down so you can speed the outcome up. And as always, we're here to help you if you have additional questions. Thanks for watching the last 4 sessions of the VA Homebuyer Bootcamp. We hope to see you in a strategy session.